Welcome back, One True Podcast. Been a couple of minutes since we last gathered.
It's been a bit. I put the Doug McNamee interview on here, but our feed has been largely quiet through the holidays.
Yeah, but we'll get back rolling on a regular basis. And we got plenty to talk about. So the basketball season for Baylor is unfolding in vastly different directions for the men and the women. Let's get to the good news first. Nicki Collen's team has won 8 in a row, tied with TCU for first in the Big 12. I guess technically they're half game ahead, but
Yeah.
they've played one more. Um, so, two questions for you, Zach, as the beat writer for that team. Um, what's been the catalyst in this surge that Nicki Collins' team has made? And then alongside that, can they win the Big 12 for the first time since 22, which was Nicki's first year?
Well, that first question, like what has been the catalyst for Baylor, is like you could go in so many different ways with that one because I think the biggest one, the most obvious one, is taliah-scott. She is a scoring dynamo. She's a walking bucket. I think she's scored 20 or more points in what 14 of 15 of 20 games, something ridiculous. Like she is just you know what you're going to get every night from her as long as she's healthy. And we saw earlier in the season when she got hurt against Texas. Texas was probably going to win that game either way, but she gets hurt in the first half and Texas blows them out. And then she doesn't play for all but 2 minutes. She really wasn't supposed to play in that game against Texas Tech in the conference opener. And that's Baylor's only conference loss. And they lost by 2 points in that one, or one possession. And it almost came back and beat Tech, who was undefeated at that time. And so, I mean, taliah-scott and just kind of being this dynamo offensively has really changed. It's at least since I've been covering the team, it's something that Baylor has not had, just this volume score that can take over a game. But if she's not on, the Bears are, as long as she's still on the court, I think the Bears are okay because this defense is out of this world. And that starts with bella-fontleroy, who has had her offensive struggles this year, but has certainly kind of taken her kind of all Big 12 defensive prowess to another level this year and really does an awesome job at just kind of organizing Baylor into what they need to do defensively to stop whatever another team might throw at them. When they went up to Ames and played previously undefeated Iowa State, Audie Crooks was this monster that was just destroying everyone in the Big 12, everyone they had played, including Iowa, which had beat Baylor earlier in the season. And bella-fontleroy comes in there, and it's just really weird defensive kind of game plan where they're just leaving someone wide open, and bella-fontleroy is just kind of fronting Audie Crooks, and they completely shut her down in the second half and won that game. And so and I haven't even gotten to Dariana Littlepage Buggs, who is kind of a double machine and is, I think she's going to be right up there for All American honors at the end of the year. And so, and there's like they've got size, they've got depth with kind of people coming back from injury. So like that first question is so deep because it can go so many different ways, and it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, what you're saying should speak to the heart of a lot of longtime Baylor women's basketball fans because under Kim Mulkey, that's what Baylor did for years was
Mm.
hang its hat on defense. Um, as brilliant as they were, let's say in 2012 when they went 40-0. Um, Obviously, you had two players that could go get you a bucket at any time and really they had more than that, but with Brittany and Odyssey. Uh, but the thing was, you just couldn't score on them.
Mm.
The Odyssey was like a pest on the perimeter, and then if they ever got beat off the dribble, oh, you just have the greatest shot blocker in NCAA history back there to protect the rim. Obviously, it's doing it in a different way with Nicki's team, but I like I like how she kind of wins the chess match a lot of
Mm.
times. Um, the obviously the game plan against Iowa State was a good example of that.
I mean, and I think that for as I know there are a lot of people out there, Nicki was in a tough spot when she was hired because following someone like Kim Mulkey is hard to do. And so you're going to
Hmm.
have a kind of abnormal amount of pressure to win. And
Yeah.
I mean, I know, like you said, she won the Big 12 in her first season, and that certainly helped with some of Kim's players and all of that. And I do think Nicki has questions in terms of recruiting, but I don't know if there's a better in-game coach in the NCAA in college women's basketball than Nicki Collen, and I just think that she is so good at that. And this season has really kind of brought that to the top for me. And so I think of the three teams that I've covered at Baylor, this is by far her best. And that team a couple years ago almost beat Juju Watkins and USC in the Sweet 16. So I don't know if this is a team. I certainly think this is a team that can win the Big 12 title. I think TCU is their top competition, and they're more of a one-note team with the Notre Dame transfer Olivia Miles. They've got plenty of other weapons, but that's their big one. But I don't know if Baylor can win a national championship or go to a Final Four, but Big 12, that is absolutely on the table, and something that certainly Nicki and the players have not been quiet about. Kind of, this is our goal, and they're going to try to go get it.
Well, and especially with the way last season ended. When I say that last season, I mean I'm talking about the regular season. Um, with a chance to beat TCU and win that Big 12 championship and not getting it done, uh, and having a lot of those same players back that remember that. Yeah, I think they would like to finish it out, the right way, so to
and
speak.
and TCU comes to Waco first, and then the last game of the regular season is in
Right.
Fort Worth. So, it the schedule makers made it for some drama. So I think that should be good. But
All right. Well,
they're a really fun team to watch, and they're just it's like going and covering this team is just a joy because you know win or lose, there's going to be something to talk about, and it's going to be a fun watch, and it's going to be entertaining, which I think leads us into the men. What is what is it like? Tell me about the men. Like what are their issues, and like is there any hope in salvaging this season after kind of the losing streak that they're on?
well, I tell you what, with each subsequent loss, I pull out my handy dandy media almanac, and I have to look up when's the last time, they were this, and so the last time that Baylor was 1-7 in the Big 12 was 20 friggin' years ago, which was Scott's third season at Baylor, and he was still dealing with NCAA sanctions left over from the Dave Bliss scandal. That particular season, they only played Big 12 games. They weren't allowed to play any non conference games because of some of these sanctions. He also had scholarship limitations. And some of those coaching jobs he did in those early years were some of his best coaching jobs. It was incredible. But yes, that was a time, uh, when they were still just trying to piece it together and get the program on its feet. And now we're talking about 20 years later and just 4 years 5 years after winning a national championship, um they're they're off to that kind of start. It's pretty confounding. Obviously it's very frustrating for Baylor fans. There's a myriad of issues. I've written about a lot of them, but um you know I actually liked this team going into the season. I thought that Scott went out and he recruited a lot of guys that were coming from mid majors or smaller programs, and I thought that they would be hungry to try to prove themselves. Well, I'm not saying they're not hungry. I just don't think they're good enough
Mhm.
or tough enough. They've got some guys that I think uh, would be good backups that are playing like starter minutes or starter roles. Caden Powell, one of those. I think Caden's actually been a bright spot.
Absolutely.
But do you want to rely on him for 30 minutes a game or whatever? Um, I think he would be better served. Uh, and I think that was the plan was for him to back up Justin Bodo, who they were counting on to be their starter. Well, so obviously there's been some injury issues.
Hmm.
Michael Perez goes down with an ACL back in the summer last year. Um, Bodo had his injury. JJ White, one of their guards they brought in, he's been out. Um, so, there's been some injury issues, but I don't think you could pin all their issues on the injuries. Um, they don't really have a true point guard. Some of that may be residual leftover stuff from Robert Wright leaving. There's no question about it. I think when he left, they were forced to scramble in the transfer portal, and a lot of the point guards that they might have been able to get had already committed other places. Um, so that's been an issue because their offense a lot of times just has no flow
Right.
to it. Um, I think Obi Agbum is a decent player, but he's more of a shooter,
Hmm.
more of a combo guard, you might say. Um, Isaac Williams has a little more point guard in him, but he's still more of a try to get downhill to the basket kind of guy. Neither one of those guys are facilitators,
Right.
um, not on a high level. So yeah, it's been rough for for Baylor. I think they're also hurt by a really good Big 12 this year.
It's
They've
deep too.
played.
Like the top of that is, even
Yeah,
Cincy is no joke, and Cincy was, not maybe not the best Big 12 team, but they're still capable.
right. Yeah. So it's a tough year. I think that there are some things, and you and I were talking about this earlier today, but like I do think that it's possible that like a Cameron Carr would come
Hmm.
back next season. I would have said earlier in the year that he certainly looked like a one and done guy at Baylor. He
Hmm.
has had some other college seasons, but um, I think next year's draft, 27, he might go higher. He could improve his draft stock, maybe get a little stronger, get a little more bulk on him, work on things in his game. Last night, as we record this podcast against Cincinnati, was a really, really rough game for Cameron Carr. The only game all season where he
Hmm.
hasn't scored double figures. I expect him to bounce back. I expect Baylor to bounce back from a standpoint of I think they're still going to win some games. They're not going 1-17 in the Big 12. They're going to win some games, but can they get to the NCAA tournament? That's a pretty tough chore at this point. I mean, their best bet would probably be trying to win the Big 12 tournament, which they've never done.
Right.
Even the national championship team didn't win the Big 12 tournament. Now, I think Scott's always kind of looked at that tournament a little bit like um, unnecessary almost, just because they've had a good seed locked up a lot of times. They'll be in a little different
Right.
situation
It
this
it
year where they
it
have
kind
to
of is
win.
their only option at this
Right.
point.
Yeah. So, can you build toward that? I don't know,
Mm.
but I think they've already got to be thinking about what do we do for 26, 27
Mm.
because this season is whew, it's off the rails.
Where does I mean, you're around Scott Drew. You know him better than I do. You cover him as the beat reporter way more. Where does he go? Like, he doesn't seem to me like someone who is going to give up, or even if
Hmm.
it's a evolving, world of college athletics, he doesn't seem like one that's going to let one season like this get him down, since he's been here for so long and taken Baylor to places they really never had before.
Yeah, obviously, first of all, Scott is, one of the most positive people you'll obviously ever meet.
Mhm.
He's often, 95% of the time in a really good mood. Um, Less so maybe after losses, like who isn't?
Right.
Uh, because I think it is fair to say, I mean, the guy is competitive. There's no
Hmm.
question about it. And is he frustrated? Absolutely. I think you saw that frustration spill over a little bit in the Cincinnati game where, things were not going their way. Cam-Carr tries to take it to the basket. There's a no call on a play where, maybe there was a foul. And Scott didn't get a lot of texts. He earned that one
Mm.
because he was about to set a pick on the ref.
Good defense, though. I mean, it was like textbook,
Well, and what
textbook.
was so funny about that play was it stopped a Cincinnati fast break. They had a breakaway going, and they were frustrated that the play got whistled dead. Ended up still hitting the free throws, so it didn't really matter. But to your point, to your question, I think Scott is one that does a really good job of like what did we not have this year? What do we need to do next year? Um, I I think they've had some bad luck with injuries, and I think if they don't have anyone that throws them a curveball and says they're coming back and then doesn't come back, they'll be fine.
Mhm.
Like you've got Elijah Williams coming in next year. He's the son of Monty Williams, the former NBA player and coach. He's probably you know, the next NBA prospect that they'll have. Really good kid out of San Antonio. Um, like I said, could they get cam-carr back? Maybe. If that were the case, then, and then they're doing something this year that they haven't had in a while, and that's redshirting a couple of guys. Andre Iguodala's son is one of those, and then Mayo Mayo Soyoye, the young big man. Um, both those kids are true freshmen, and to have a couple of guys that have gone through a year in the program
Mhm.
and then are able to come in next year, I think will be big because you just haven't had that in a while,
Right.
So
I mean, and
I
you have
think
a if you have a back or a front court, right, that would be Bodo, Soyoye, and potentially James Naji. Like,
mhm.
that's very enticing moving
Yeah,
forward. But
absolutely.
contingent on keeping them, but still.
No, you're absolutely right. That you can work with that,
Mm.
So yeah, some of it's luck, but certainly they've got to look at luck with injuries and stuff. But certainly they've got to look at, where did we miss? Where did
Mm.
we? And a big miss. I mean, I hate to belabor the point. I've written about it, but um, they swung and missed big with Michael Ratai.
Mm.
He was their big offseason acquisition in the transfer portal and just hasn't played up to snuff. Maybe he picks it up in the second half of Big 12 play. We'll see. But yeah, he's struggling. And that's been as much a part of their issue as anything. If you had him playing, giving you kind of what he did at Oregon State, um, yeah, that would be a much different team. So
They just need a little bit from him. And when they get a little bit from him, they win.
yeah,
So,
right. The one game that he has had double figures scoring in Big 12 play is the one game that they
yeah.
won. There you go. Michael Ratai is the X factor. Uh, so There was a stretch there earlier this month where basically I think you were writing 2 to 3 transfer portal stories a day.
Man, just getting a rhythm, man. It's just like, who's this guy? Go look at it,
Yeah, copy paste,
right? Well,
put
kind
in some
of.
new put in some new names. Yeah, so Baylor football had a busy transfer portal season. Obviously, the biggest acquisition was DJ Lagway, the quarterback out of Florida, who was a blue chipper coming out of Willis, Texas, the son of a former Baylor Bear in Derek Lagway. Um, how would you rank this Baylor transfer portal class overall, including Lagway? And also with that, obviously we have National Signing Day coming up, the February version, next week. Do you expect Baylor to add any more high school players?
Well, in terms of the transfer portal, I think it's easy to look at Baylor's total haul, and I don't know if it's completely over. I think they'll have a few more guys trickle in here, but and say it's a bit underwhelming because yes, DJ Lagway is big, and that's a blue chip guy that maybe Baylor, had he not been a Baylor legacy, maybe Baylor doesn't land that type of caliber prospect. So yes, 100% that is exciting. But you look at the rest of the guys they've signed, and there's not a lot of like, this is a guy that did it at LSU, or this guy did it at Florida, or that there's a lot of like guys moving up, guys that maybe are not household names or you wouldn't ever think. So I can see how from the outside there's maybe some pessimism as to who they added and is it enough to save Dave Aranda's job. But I do think that Dave Aranda did a good job, or maybe Joe Clanderman and Jake Spavital did a good job at finding guys that really fit exactly what they want to do and maybe have shown just enough to where this guy can be a game changer. I look at a guy like Draylon Miller from Colorado. He was a wide receiver there. He played a little bit of running back. He's probably on the higher tier of caliber athlete that Baylor's going to get. But he's a guy that from every video you watch or all of his highlights, all of his stats, like he fits exactly what Jake Spavital wants to do. Kind of a versatile, kind of can do a little bit of everything at a really high level, and did it on a team that had a lot of injuries last year in Colorado. And so he's a guy that I really think can kind of take a next step. And then, you look at a guy like Southern Miss, he's an edge rusher, Garrick Ponder. I know one of those guys that I think similar to um, Keaton Thomas in a way. You like a high energy guy that's going to kind of fill an area of need and maybe suck up a lot of focus for on the defensive side of the ball. And so I think that Baylor did a good job. I would give them an A, if I had to
Mm.
grade this, just because I think that there's enough there that they can coach these guys up, and it won't be Dave Aranda certainly coaching these guys up. He's leaving that to Jake Spavital and Joe Clanderman next year. So I think that Baylor is setting itself up well to kind of have a rebound season. Are they going to go to the Big 12 championship? I doubt it. Are they going to make a bowl game? They better. So, I think that overall, this transfer portal class has to be a positive, and I think it has been. And there's no other way to look at it. Now, again, is it LSU? Is it Oklahoma State? Is it? No. But I think they filled the holes that they needed to kind of get them to the next level.
So there is one guy I wanted to ask you specifically about, because I guess there may be some eligibility issues
Mm.
there, but Jose, is that how you say it?
Hosea,
Wheeler,
yeah, I think so.
Hosea Wheeler,
Yeah,
from Indiana, D lineman, obviously coming from a national championship
big
program,
time,
Indiana
big time.
Hoosiers. How about that? Um, so does that class get a bump if he's able to play?
Oh, absolutely. Like he's probably you're behind DJ Lagway. He's your number two headline recruit
Yeah, I
signing.
thought
Just
so.
be, it's just like, but we'll find out February 10th. He's got, he's played 4 years of Division I college football, first at Western Kentucky and then at Indiana. But he started his career at City College in Sacramento City College. I believe that's what it was in California. So he's kind of under that like does JUCO count? You know, he's one of those guys, and so we'll find that out on February 10th whether he's going to have that extra year. You know, I don't know why Baylor would sign him and kind of fill that spot and kind of be done with the defensive line signings if they didn't think he could get it. And I think he's probably got a pretty good case. I don't know. Does the NCAA, what is eligibility at this point? Who knows? But um, you know, I don't know. It just I think that you know, Dave Aranda said before the portal opened that their focus was on the offensive and defensive line for good reason. You know, we saw Colton Price, their starting center, transfer out. That kind of surprised me. And you know, obviously their defensive line was not very good last year. So I think Hosea is a absolute anchor to the defensive line. And then if I had to pick someone out on the offensive line, I look at Nate Kibble, who's he's coming up from Texas. He went
Whose
to
name I love. Yeah.
I can't wait to see your headlines with that one. Like I'm gonna the eventual Nate Kibble feature that I'll write however many years down the road. Like just get your cherry bombs working on that one.
Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
but and is there going to be more high school players on signing day? I mean, this signing day almost seems like secondary to the one in December, doesn't it? Like
Oh yes, for sure. For
there's going to
for secondary for Power Four teams,
correct.
major Division One programs. I would say for the next level and levels down, huge.
Oh,
It's their
fair. Yeah.
day.
Absolutely. But there's gonna I
So
know there's gonna be a couple. Uh, running back of all people followed Joe Clanderman from Kansas State, HT Davis, and then there was an unranked Cedar Park player who is going to from Cedar Park, Texas. And last time that worked out pretty well for Baylor. Last time they've got a 0-star Cedar Park player. So there's a linebacker from Cedar Park that is going to expected to sign this coming whenever it is next week.
next
So
Wednesday. Yeah.
yeah, so there was going to be a few more, but I think rightfully so. We've talked about this before. Baylor needs Dave Aranda needs to win now. Like this, it's do or die this season. So I think rightfully so. Maybe the high school recruiting has taken a step back to finding game changing guys in the transfer portal. So I think
Yeah,
that's kind of
I
where
think
their
there's
mindset's at.
I think there's little question that the transfer portal has hurt high school recruits.
No doubt.
The top ones are still going to sign and the elite of the elite, but that next sort of middle level and down, yeah, you know, they're having to maybe take offers that they wouldn't have taken in the
Right.
past and then sort of build their case and then go transfer somewhere.
And
But
it's a conversation for a different day, and we can do a podcast in the summer about the transfer portal. I think that'd be great. But like what
sure.
Texas is doing is obviously they've maintained over the last few years have maintained their high school recruiting, but this year there was an obvious shift to the transfer portal and just been fascinating to watch. And we don't have time to get into it now, but you're right. The transfer portal has had adverse
Mm,
effects on all high school,
no,
football
no
recruits.
question. One more comment before we move on the Hosea Taylor or Wheeler thing. When you said, what is eligibility? For years we would say, what is a catch now?
I mean,
What is a block charge? Now we're to the level of what is eligibility?
does this count? Like, I don't know.
It's crazy.
It's wild.
It's baffling to me that why junior college years wouldn't count. But whatever. I mean, it's a new world and they're figuring it all out. So, um, be nice to have some guidelines.
Yeah, I think everybody wants guidelines, and nobody wants to be the one to make those guidelines. So
Mm,
yeah,
well
we need a
played.
commissioner, almost like we need a commissioner or something.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. All right. So finally, you and I recently got the chance to sit down with Doug McNamee and visit with Baylor's new athletic director. What were just your overall impressions? And what do you feel like are the biggest challenges that he faces in this role?
Well, My impressions on Doug McNamee is that he is an incredibly nice guy, incredibly likable, incredibly well spoken. I understand, you know, from what I gather, he was a fundraiser. Like, he sold tickets, and he was kind of involved in the Bear Foundation when he was at Baylor, and obviously went on to successful stints at Magnolia and Field and Stream, and he has this very people first, fan forward idea, and kind
Hmm.
of outlook. And I think that came through more than anything. And I just, I'm still though on a wait and see on, like, there's so much more to that job than, just predicating or, doing fan stuff. And that Baylor has they have a lot of stuff to repair with their fans. I think he's very forthcoming with that, but there's so much more, in terms of the NIL, in terms of divvying up those funds, in terms of kind of negotiating deals and stuff that I I don't know. I'm still on a wait and see kind of, you know, uh, can he do this job? I love he's a great dude, fantastic to talk to. I think he's going to be great to work with, you know, but I still have some questions as to, can he handle things when they kind of get outside of his comfort zone? Is he ready for that? And that's why I kind of pressed him on, like, all right, who have you talked to? Have you talked to Mac? Have you talked to, who else in this space that has been doing this job have you been leaning on to learn from? Because I think there's a lot to learn when it comes to running a college athletic program. Um, so that's what I think. What do you think? It seemed like you two kind of got along, talked a lot about playing basketball. I know he worked with Scott Drew and all that, but what were your thoughts from him?
Well, first of all, I felt like you just uh, summed up the column that I wrote when he was hired very well in your
Well,
thoughts, because basically my column was super nice guy. Let's wait and see if he's
right,
the guy, and only time will tell on that. We're not a hot take podcast here on One True Podcast. We're more measured and nuanced. And I mean, if you want us to say some crazy stuff, maybe we'll throw occasionally some things out there. I called Michael Rataj soft earlier, basically. I mean,
that's not a hot take. That I
that's not
think
a hot take.
that's you
Uh,
can back that up pretty easily.
yeah, no question. But here's the deal. I'm with you in terms of I think I'm very impressed with Doug.
Mm,
Uh, I think he's sharp. He had an answer for everything we asked him.
hmm hmm
Maybe there were Baylor fans that didn't like every answer. I don't know, but like, um, and I think it's even smart that when I asked him about is there a baseline for
Yeah,
Baylor next season, that you have to win this in order to, and I think he's smart to say, no, we're not putting a number on it.
right.
I think he doesn't want to pigeonhole himself or back himself into a corner, because what if they have a bunch of injuries and still go 6-6? Would that be progress? It might be.
Maybe.
We'd have to see it unfold, but yeah, I mean, um, so uh, you're right. He has an incredibly tough job ahead of him. And here's the thing: uh, it's not helping Baylor that uh, two of their in-state Big 12 rivals,
Mm,
being Houston and Texas Tech, are killing it right now
right.
in football and men's basketball, which are the sports that, let's face it, most fans care about
hmm
the most.
hmm
Uh, TCU, maybe a little closer to Baylor in those sports. They've kind of maybe regressed a little, at least in football. Men's basketball, they haven't really been at the level that Baylor's been at, um, but they beat them twice this year.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
so
scoreboard,
go
scoreboard.
figure, right? Uh, so yeah, it doesn't help Baylor that here you've got Houston and Tech doing so well, And Baylor fans are like, why not us? Why can't we do that? And it's a fair question. But so he's going to need to find and tap into that NIL honeypot wherever it is, find some big money people. Obviously he's good friends with Chip and Joe.
I mean, they already renamed the baseball field. I mean,
Right.
how long until, the scoreboard at McLean Stadium is made out of shiplap?
I love it. I love it. It's one of the things that drew you to Waco, wasn't it? Your wife is.
Hey, listen, don't even talk to me about those cupcakes. I get those if I can get those every month, that's better than flowers. Magnolia cupcakes.
Gosh. I'm going to need to introduce you to cherry on top cupcakes because they're the bomb.com, but that's me being biased, a biased journalist.
There's always food talk on this podcast.
It
always goes there.
Love it. I really like Doug. We're not fans, but I think it's okay for me to say I'm rooting for him.
Right.
I hope he does get it done. But it's gonna take time, and it's gonna take a lot of work. And I do think he's a smart guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has some other people on staff at Baylor Athletics that are smart people that will help.
Mm-hmm.
And to your question that you asked him about, who else have you talked to? He had talked to a bunch of people,
Right.
A bunch of other ADs that are doing this job. So, I think he's smart enough to figure some things out, but he's also humble enough to ask for help or ask questions where he needs it.
He's okay knowing, admitting what he doesn't know. Right.
Yes.
And I think that's a huge step in a job like that. And so I agree. If there's, it's not like I'm not rooting for him or I don't think he can't do the job. I just, he doesn't come with a resume that I know he can do the job or he has done it.
No, exactly. But here's the thing. You might have said that about Nicki Collen when she was, she had never been a college basketball head coach. So now she had been a WNBA coach of the year.
Right.
It's not like, to a certain extent, basketball is basketball. But
there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, those are fair questions, though. And I think undoubtedly there will be a lot of learning on the fly for Doug McNamee, figuring things out. And, 2-3 years from now, he'll be a lot more comfortable in the role than he is now. Who knows what college athletics will look like in 2 or 3 years, but that's what we're here to talk about. So, yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah. So, before we go, Baylor women, who do they have coming up?
They are at West Virginia. They go to number 22, West Virginia, and then they've in the near future they play Arizona State, TCU at home. So this is a bit of a stretch they got a tougher-ish stretch. So yeah, those will be fun games. Baylor men also at West Virginia on Saturday. I wonder if they're saving money there or something. Traveling, catch a plane home.
Yeah. Who knows? Question we can ask Doug McNamee.
There it is.
We have his cell phone number.
That's it.
All right. Thanks for hopping on. We'll talk more next week.
With the